Welcome to the Fast Forward Podcast. I'm your co-host, Lee.
And I'm your co-host, Lewis, and welcome to the fastest growing Canadian tech podcast in the universe.
This week, we are covering some crazy news in sports, AI, and more. Also, for this week's Rewind segment, we're going back to the inception of communications and where the future of conversations will be going.
And for this week's Fast Forward segment, we're talking about the Olympics and where it's going.
Okay, where we starting this, Lewis?
Okay, well.
What's happening?
Okay, it was a crazy week. Actually, it wasn't even that crazy of a week, really, but...
How do you describe a week that's not crazy?
I know.
It's been an okay week in tech news, but we still want you to pay attention for an hour.
Well, it's funny because we talked so much about Facebook last week, but Meta now, and that's kind of been the biggest news as of the last week. I'm sure you know the news, or you've at least been following the stock, but I think it was Tuesday where Facebook lost over $30 billion overnight.
They got wrecked.
Wrecked is an understatement.
Yeah. It's maybe a good buying opportunity. Again, not financial advice, but that's a big
sale.
drop.
It's on sale, right? Yeah. Meta is on sale, as they say.
25% off.
So apparently Facebook just completely never hit their financial estimates, which was the reason it tanked so hard, as well as their user base. I think this was the first quarter that they never grown in users. So that's a pretty big deal for them. Facebook, or Meta, has blamed Apple for its gigantic loss, which really makes sense if you think about it. After they released iOS 15, I believe it is, with those crazy privacy laws, it wrecked a lot of these types of businesses who rely on this advertisements to be able to do this.
Yeah, I think maybe advertisers should have been shorting the stock, because I think everyone that works in advertising, like even our team at Tomorrow Inc., we knew like right away, like that iOS update just wrecked advertisers. So we should have known that this quarter was probably going to be poor for earnings. And that's basically Facebook's only real source of income, in respect to the whole business.
I really think that it was kind of almost a failure too of them to not diversify often, because they already knew that they had all of their eggs in this one basket, right? Of advertising. And if they're on mobile devices, well, they're not in their ecosystem. They're not in their garden. They don't control that marketplace versus, say, Google, right? They own Android. So when iOS happened, at least they can somewhat control from their Google experiences using the pixels.
Yeah, the thing about Facebook, like they can still advertise. It just doesn't work as well. So I think when brands are deciding where to advertise, they watch their cost per result, right? And I'm not going to get super nerdy on the marketing side, but basically the cost for the results just went up through the roof. And the thing is, it might not have even been that bad, but there's just no way of tracking it. So what they're doing is they're pulling back their spend. This does present a good opportunity for those who know how to advertise without the tracking, like really strong creative and really impactful content. But for a lot of people, it obviously hurt. Another thing that's worth talking about too is how big of a role maybe TikTok plays in all of this.
Oh, yeah.
TikTok's been the fastest growing social media platform for, I can't even remember how long now. And I'm pretty sure Facebook, for the first time since it started, decreased in users. Mm-hmm. I believe 500,000 users in the last quarter.
Yeah, it's like a 1-2 punch for Zuck over the last little bit, right? It was over 2016 with the elections, right? Huge controversy for Facebook there. The whistleblower stuff,
he's getting wrecked.
He's getting wrecked. I don't know how this guy is mentally stable at the moment.
Thank God he's a robot, right? He doesn't have to deal with mental health issues.
Yeah.
But I definitely think the stress on his CPU is starting to wear. And it's interesting, like obviously iOS just totally wrecked the advertising aspect of the business, at least for a short while.
Well, apparently I just read somewhere that Apple, their privacy changes has cut over $278 billion worth of like revenue for tech firms.
That's nuts.
300 billion bones.
Yeah. Apple's just ruthless. They only care about their garden. Yeah. No one else's. Yeah. And you know what's interesting? Obviously we can talk a little bit about TikTok, right? But, they're a huge threat, but I think really Facebook's biggest threat, like, I don't know if they can diversify their revenue. I think advertising is their business. I can't imagine like them running like a subscription service where people pay for like no ads.
Yeah.
But the thing about the whole Meta play with Oculus is that's theirs. It's not the iPhone, it's the Oculus. So they won't have to run into those issues. So when you're in Times Square in the metaverse and you're looking at all those ads, they don't have to worry about iPhone pulling the rug on them. So that's probably part of their play, like building the next generation of advertising, but owning the platform. As much as he likes to say like, this is going to be for everybody and it's going to be like a open platform, like there's no way in hell.
Oh,
I do not trust Zuckerberg.
No, absolutely not. Well, I mean, you could argue that that was arguably the way he was trying to diversify is through the metaverse, right? I mean, Meta was almost like a rebrand at the same time because Facebook is kind of the poster boy for everything that's bad with tech, right? So VR and AR, both of that, it is kind of a platform because I assume they're going to release their own AR glasses or VR glasses of some sort.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Well, Oculus already has the VR, right? So I'm thinking eventually that's where they're going to diversify. It's just currently not where it needs to be in order for general consumers to start wearing it.
Now, in another story, actually, there was some information leaked about Meta, and they had like the job board data, and apparently they've got like 6 times more job listings in Oculus than Messenger, Instagram, and WhatsApp. 571 from this article here. Yeah. So like they're really hiring like crazy. And this is, I think, is, there's been a lot of criticisms about Zuckerberg because he's trying to pretty much run a startup business out of Facebook. So they're an advertising giant and he's clearly focused his entire, like they changed their name to Meta. Yeah. What happens if that flops? Like he's taken a huge risk with like to change the name of his company, to change the focus, as an organization, when you change your name like that, everybody, there's like, I don't know, 100,000 people that work under Facebook's umbrella. I don't know. Yeah. Some massive number. Their vision for the future is now changed to this metaverse vision. And I don't know if they're making any money off of that. Like I think they're they're definitely not because all this development, like they're doing like
they invested like $3 billion to do this whole Meta rebrand stuff.
Yeah. And like all the technology for like the haptics and the technology with the lenses and technology with the sensors, like they're doing so much R&D. They're not making money yet. So in a lot of ways, Zuck's kind of done like this startup business inside of Facebook, but then he's also doubled down on it. He's changed the name. He's changed the vision of the company and he's willing to look at the stock. The stock price reflects that. Like he turned his back and he got jabbed in the back, right? iOS, TikTok, losing monthly users. Yeah. And now what do you think? Do you think that this is the bet that wins? Do you think him doubling down on Meta is going to end up saving Facebook or the company?
I think if he never did this anyway, like realistically, I just think that this plunge of a stock price is only a temporary short-term thing. I think for Zuck, this is going to be a monumental moment for him, just similar how they transitioned Facebook to being a very strictly mobile platform, right? With Instagram and such as well. I think this is an even bigger play. This is an even bigger bet because again, we're not entirely sure. Like this metaverse isn't even necessarily a clear concept right now, right? It's just kind of an idea of the future. But shortly after we got that crazy little vision that he presented on live stream, the one where he's like talking to the robots and such, right? Yeah. The one, so many good memes out of that, by the way. So many good memes. But after that, that's when we started seeing the Activision Blizzard acquisition, the Bungie Blizzard, all these acquisitions happening left and right for metaverse plays. So, I mean, I think Zuck definitely knew that this day was coming from him for a while. I'm just surprised it happened so soon or only recently, What's
your prediction? You think Zuck's going to win this play and he's going to just bet the house on the metaverse and he's going to turn his back on social media for now to create the platform that he'll soon own, like the emperor ruler of the metaverse? Or do you think he's going to pursue this whole thing and NVIDIA's Omniverse is going to be the primary play and then Facebook's just going to get wrecked? Did you hear that?
Yeah.
So here in the studio, we just heard like the equivalent of somebody dropping like a ton of something somewhere.
I think what they're going to do with Metaverse is they're going to like kind of like integrate the two, kind of like similar how MySpace was. Right now, the Metaverse, it has existed for so long already. Second Life, VR chat, all these kind of weird things that you could play on Steam, right? That's almost kind of like we're in the MySpace era of the Metaverse. And then when Facebook starts to join in, well, now you can start authenticating through your Facebook account. You're almost bringing in your digital, I guess you can say your real life digital version because it's on Facebook, your identity's on there. that will eventually come on to the metaverse, and that's when most people will start adopting. And of course, similar to how Facebook did at first, once all your friends are on Facebook, everyone's on in the metaverse, right? Playing VR poker or other things. That's what's going to happen. That's my prediction, though. What do you think, Lee?
I honestly, it's hard to tell. I don't think Zuck's that much of a visionary. I've never really been a big fan of him. I think the Facebook was great, and I think he has a really good team. Like Cheryl and everyone else there at Facebook seems to be really competent. I think culturally, we've seen what happened with Web 2, and we've seen how social media and major, huge companies have just absorbed everyone's attention and just monopolized our attention. And it's hurt us. It's hurt our kids. It's hurt our communities. It's made people very divided. And I think the whole movement culturally behind Web 3 is like trying to build a wall against Zuck and being like, this is going to be decentralized. This is going to be, fair for everybody. No one company is going to own the platform. I don't know how well advertising is going to play a role in it. And also, I don't know if I want to be in the metaverse if like they're tracking me with ads and shit. That doesn't sound like fun, I'm like,
no,
I'm like playing like Call of Duty in the metaverse with the boys, and then like I die, and then it's like playing me an ad. Like, I don't know. I just don't like to respawn. I just don't know if I mess with it. So
what kind of ads would you think? What kind of ads? Like personalized ads?
Personalized ads, bro. I think this is what I've always told people. One day, you and me, we're going to be in the metaverse. We're going to be in Times Square, and we'll be looking around, and I'll be looking around going, whoa. And I'll be seeing completely different ads than you on all of those different spots, because the metaverse is just going to be a completely personalized world, right? Maybe every girl I see in the metaverse is blonde because I choose it, right? Like that's the level. That's what I'm saying. Like as far as like how customized it'll be.
You know how like some people expose themselves by like saying like, I don't go on TikTok because there's too many like young girls dancing, and then you're like,
it's your algorithm.
Interesting, you know what I mean? It's gonna be like that in like Times Square. I'm gonna like, do you see that disgusting ad over there in the top right corner? It's some dude, crapping in a toilet or something like that, and then you're gonna be like, dude, you're a sicko. You're gonna expose yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that's 100%. You're not gonna know what people are seeing. So I think, that's already happening now with our own, with the internet and how we use it and content and whatever else. But do you think it'll be even more creepy in the metaverse?
Yeah.
How are we gonna build a metaverse? Is there enough software engineers for this?
I don't think there is enough. Okay, you know what? The gig is up. There's this crazy. So this one company, DeepMind, it's an AI-based company, and they have created this new AI coding engine named AlphaCode that can program at the level of an average human coder.
Lewis, are you out of a job?
Yeah.
He's above average.
I'm above average.
He's not an average coder.
No,
I'm
above
average.
For now, you're safe.
I'm an elite coder. No, so essentially what AlphaCode does is that it's trained takes in years and years of coding competition data and has successfully beat 54% of coders who has challenged against. Therefore,
and by beat, do you mean speed?
Like it's
how do you beat another coder?
It's kind of a mix of so the judging happens in many different ways. So it happens in speed, sure, but part of it as well is like, does your implementation look much better than
clean
others?
Code,
sure,
organized,
exactly like that,
scalable. So here, just your quick take on this. You're a software engineer.
Yeah,
I don't really get that shit. Do you think eventually the majority of software development will be done by AI, and if so, how soon?
So I think the way it's going to happen right now is that so DeepMind said that they're working now on software that will be able to build software on its own, similar to, because right now this is not really trained to build its own software. However, I do think that eventually what's going to happen is that we're going to be able to tell an AI code similar to how Google Docs never killed journalism, right? Or never killed writing. It just assisted programmers in writing. At the end of the day, typing is just very inefficient, right? How can we generate as much text as possible? I think within the next 10 years, maybe programmers will not be out of a job. I think they'll just transition more into cybersecurity testing because code is very vulnerable. In fact, GitHub Copilot is kind of like Google Docs for your code editor. You start writing out some code and it auto completes it for you. I think 40% of that code that was outputted had some sort of security vulnerability at some sort. So because of that, it does show a lot of flaw. So maybe we just transition more into the cybersecurity era of that kind of things.
So you don't think you're going to lose jobs, but you think that AI is going to empower existing developers to develop at scale and more effectively.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a good sentiment to have, because I think actually the world, we need more people to code. It's crazy. It's like, I feel like everyone's learning to code. Like, obviously that's part of the reason why you've been so successful with your content lately, is because you've been tailoring to this huge audience of people that are trying to learn to code. But
similar to speaking, like when the self checkouts came out, right? I know a lot of people got worked up and they're like, oh, this is taking jobs from people. The issue is no one wants to be scanning things, you know? I would rather those people do more efficient jobs. Like now they go clean, for example. Robots are still having a hard time cleaning in grocery stores,
or helping
for
a
example,
customer.
Or helping a customer, right? That's something that a robot can't do. Yeah. But scanning is very inefficient for a human. Similar, it's just going to make the human's job more purposeful and eventually hopefully not work at all.
I feel like it's a lot of industries there where a lot of the work you do is creatively inspired, and it's like, it's directing. It's like using your human ability to direct your efforts, but then 40, 50, 60% of your time is just doing like a mundane task, right? So like, for example, in design, when we have like this concept for a logo, it might take us an hour to get there because it's just managing the vectors and drawing the lines and creating the image. I feel like it's got to be the same in code, where you're like, okay, I know how to solve this problem, but I have to now write like 100 lines of code. So if AI could come and see, oh, I know where you're going with this, and then the AI can support that developer in getting to the solution faster. If what takes him 8 hours takes him 4, he'll accomplish what he can accomplish in a year and 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like you don't want to reinvent the wheel. Like, what's the point, right? If I have to say, well, like a CSV file, if I have to go through it and find a bunch of information out of it, well, that's been done a billion times probably by other programmers. I'm just going online and copying, pasting, coding anyway, right? So what's the difference if I just tell an AI to do it for me? I still figure out the problem in my head.
Yeah.
I just got someone else to do that. Like now you just don't hear me clacking on my keyboard over it.
It's like when teachers made you do all the math on the paper and not use a calculator.
Literally.
Yeah.
Like what's the point? Kind of thing, right? Exactly. It's the same thing. And I know a lot of people are scared because I think programming is a new job in terms of humanity, right? And we've already found a way to outsource it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, no one wants to be typing on a keyboard. We just want to solve problems.
And be creative. Yeah. I think if humans can solve problems, be creative, and find purpose in their work, then they can work 2-3 hours a day rather than 8 hours a day, and they can solve the same problems.
Now, the one issue that you have to come into, though, is that because if we're talking about humans not working because of AI, we have to now think about who owns this AI, because now you just run into this monopoly where someone who owns this AI is taking the entire profit or the entire, have the entire leverage.
Has half the workforce under their company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The code's only as good as the public code, right?
Yeah.
That's the other thing. So people are going to protect and sell their own code, I guess, right?
Their own AI. Now who owns DeepMind?
I'm not sure. It's not someone that we know. I know that Elon Musk owns OpenAI. I don't think he owns OpenAI, but I know he's a huge contributor of it. And they've been scaring people a lot too with something called Codex, which is like I speak in plain English what I want, and it'll start developing a game for you.
Yeah, I heard about that. You just say, oh, I want this character to start running at me and then jumping and then like in real time. Like that's some nutty stuff.
I can't even comprehend it.
DeepMind is a UK artificial intelligence lab acquired by Google in 2014.
Oh shit.
So it's
acquired by
Of course,
Google.
yeah.
That's where it's coming from.
Well, the good news is that they're probably going to kill it in 2 months.
True. When it fails. That's funny. I mean, I think this has been one of the things that wins the race. Google has a lot of, or Alphabet has a lot of horses, but this seems like one that'll win.
Yeah, I mean, but AI has been here for a long time already, right? With Google, like Google especially, they have their Gmail autocomplete, their search, Spotify, like their music and podcast suggestions are always targeting you with artificial intelligence.
Speaking of Spotify, have you heard about all this like drama with Joe Rogan?
Oh, yeah, I've been keeping up with it.
So I was like kind of curious because I actually didn't really know what Rumble was. So who is Rumble and why would they offer Joe Rogan $100 million?
They're like a podcast company too. I see they actually get a lot of YouTubers to do podcasts with them. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think they've got like a pretty cool, cool. They got a pretty strong strategy right now to try to get new creators on the platform. But surprisingly, this is something I didn't know. Rumble's from Canada.
Oh, okay.
Toronto based. So kind of a cool story. I'll kind of give you the quick history of Rumble. Basically, the CEO from Toronto started a video streaming tool called Jokeroo, I think it's called.
Okay.
And this is back when there was multiple video platforms, and then YouTube just kind of became the monopoly, beat everybody out. And this guy was sitting in the corner all pissed off. He's like, yo, I hate YouTube. And, low-key, he's coming back for a vengeance now. But anyway, he was kind of upset about the fact that, YouTube had a monopoly on YouTube. Fast forward a couple of years later, 2013, he noticed YouTube started prioritizing big influencers over new creators, which is something that we know, right? Like the algorithm on YouTube started to get more difficult to be discovered on, much different than TikTok is today. And that's when he created Rumble as a tool to help those creators who he felt like YouTube was neglecting.
Kind of like almost like a Patreon sort of thing.
I think it's just a tool it's more open. So it doesn't have like all the same, it doesn't have the same censorship, the same algorithm kind of telling people what to watch. So it kind of gives everybody like a fair chance.
Gotcha.
And crazy, today Rumbles now has a $2 billion valuation.
No way.
Yeah. So they're really, really, really growing, and it's kind of cool.
Is it still like, do they have their own platform then?
Yeah.
Okay.
YouTube. It's like YouTube videos and audio. It's just like content. So it's kind of like a combination of Spotify and YouTube.
Gotcha.
But I would say they're more leaning towards YouTube. Now, the interesting thing is they've offered Joe Rogan $100 million, which is actually the same sum of money that Spotify offered him for their licensing deal.
No kidding.
And they're offering him $25 million a year for 4 years. So it's a 4-year, $100 million deal. Now, I don't know if it's legit. It might just be really good marketing because we're talking about it now.
For sure.
But here's something kind of funny. Of all the top biggest hitters on the Rumble platform, and this is where a lot of the controversy comes from, one of the biggest guys on there, Dan Bongino, his main topics are Joe Biden criticism, vaccine mandates, and big tech maleficence.
Yeah.
And
so some like InfoWars type stuff.
Yeah. And then number 2, Donald Trump Jr., Democratic Party incompetence, defending his dad. Those are his 2 topics. And then Steve Bannon, electoral fraud, COVID-19, and then MAGA revivalism. And then you have Russell Brand, skepticism of politicians, mainstream media, and big business. Now, Russell Brand's probably the only person on that list I could probably listen to. And it's kind of interesting that he's been like now bundled in with the far right because they're saying like everybody on Rumble is far right. But this guy from Canada didn't start it for that reason.
It kind of sounds like a far right, like Rumble. I just feel like if you said, have you been on Rumble before? I'd be like, it just sounds like a far right thing.
It sounds like a dirty place, but it's not. And actually, this is kind of the point I wanted to get across was like this platform, it's become like a safe haven for right-wing personalities because they can't safely talk about it on YouTube. So my question to you is who created Rumble? Far-right extremists or YouTube?
Who created it? I mean, I think
the problem that it is.
Oh,
who's responsible? Yeah.
Well, I think realistically, the platform is all whoever is in the that's who it is. So at the end of it, think about why OnlyFans has its name, right? OnlyFans is arguably speaking a Patreon alternative. You go on OnlyFans because I want to make money from my fans, give them exclusive content. But because they have accepted a certain demographic of people, right? Porn stars or, cam girls, etc. Well, that's now what it's affiliated with, right? That's almost become the community. So I would say it's definitely been people like Donald Trump Jr. and Steve Bannon and you said number one, I forget.
Dan Bongino.
Dan Bongino, yeah. So I think they are arguably the one making that platform.
Yeah, I disagree because I think a platform like this, like the creators of it had from what I did, the research I did, there's no like right-wing affiliations. Now they did get investment from some right-wing politicians or groups, but I think they were only, like you can't stop who wants to fund your project, right? The reason that they were funding it is because YouTube censorship and the way that social media has been going as far as like just censoring people's voices. And there are obviously times where there's grounds for it. But where I think things are starting to get kind of gray area is when people are getting censored and there's not really grounds for it, like getting censored for things that turns out that ends up being true. For example, like YouTube's had a couple of incidents in the past couple of years where they didn't let people say certain things or certain theories, and then they turned out to be true. And I think that seems like an overreach by the people. Like the people are feeling like, hey, like we can't talk about stuff, and then it turns out to be true, and then there's like no repercussions because YouTube doesn't have any, there's no governing body, right? So I feel like there almost needs to be a second platform so people have that freedom of speech, I guess. But I'm wondering, like, do you think the role that the giants play as far as censorship is going to create these places? And do you think it'll be actually more destructive? Because now that YouTube isn't allowing discourse and having discussions from both sides, all the people that feel alienated are going to one platform where they're just in an echo chamber. And now they're going to become more radicalized. So to me, it's like, what is the net result? I actually think YouTube, the net result of their censorship is actually more extremism.
Yeah, I don't know, because you have to look at the current landscape of how our entire world is in right now. When you have fear everywhere, when you have scientists who don't even know the next step on what to do, it's hard for anyone to really accurately depict as to what is a conspiracy theory to later on being what's real, right?
I guess quick questions.
Yeah.
Will Joe Rogan go to Rumble?
I don't think he can.
I don't think he would, even if he had the choice.
Yeah, because I don't know if he wants to be affiliated, because he actually considers himself on the left, right? So I don't know if he wants to be affiliated with that.
I know with all the controversy he has, like I know obviously there's some liability he has, obviously, but at the same time, I think that's just a bad look for him if he goes completely over there, because he is a skeptic, right? Like a center-leaning people.
I think it's important. I think it's important that we have, because I think as soon as we lose him, like there's nobody that the left is willing to listen to that will allow for conversation on both sides, which is kind of sad. Like there's like only one guy left really that I can think of. Like, can you think of anybody else?
No, there's probably a lot, but Joe Rogan.
That are big.
Him and us.
Him and us.
Yeah, the Fast Forward podcast.
The second question.
I was going to say.
Can listeners expect to hear the Fast Forward podcast on Rumble one day?
No, I would say probably not.
I mean, we're all for distribution. Hey, listen, CEO at Rumble, if you can offer us $100 million over 4 years, we'll sell our souls.
Yeah.
Speak for yourself. I don't know if I would. You know what I mean?
The new show's not featuring Lewis.
Lewis, it's okay. Russell Brand's on there. Russell Brand's like a super liberal dude. He's on there. He has a whole show on there.
Yeah, but like that's again.
That's where the association is. Yeah.
But everyone else is on there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's definitely like there's a black sheep. You know?
Yeah, I think that just speaks to Russell Brand's bravery, though. He's not worried about the platform because he still speaks his speak, right?
Yeah, but man's is also rich as hell. Man's had like 20-year career of just complete.
Yeah, so he can throw it all away.
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Everything can crash and burn.
Wow, we sure did go down a rabbit hole on that one.
Yeah. Wow, we went down a rabbit hole for sure. Speaking of rabbit holes, no, I'm joking.
Do it. You got to stick to it.
So Chrome just released this new feature, and it's kind of related to AI in a way, but they're now taking all of your browser history and now putting it in a thing called journeys. So whenever you go back to view your browser history, you can see the whole entire journey of how you researched a topic of some sort. So let's say I was trying to look for flights to Florida, say. I would look online for the best flight deals, for the best hotels where I can land, go to, maybe the best food while I'm in Miami, etc. Well, Google will be able to help you with that research by showing you this rabbit hole, or what they call a journey, and they'll be able to help suggest you ways you can better complete your research. So I just thought maybe some cool ideas here is what this might be. What this might do with your data is that they're going to help you continue research and allow it to suggest you links that it finds relevant in your rabbit hole search. So again, if I did that in Miami, maybe if I am a Miami restaurant that wants to attract tourists, well, that's a good way I can add it into my research,
Yeah, I think real quick, Google, if you're watching this, can you just delete all my rabbit holes from 12 to 15? That'd be great.
What was in your browser history from 12 to 15?
Don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
It was a joke, Lewis. I went to church when I was 12 to 15, so there's nothing on my. It was, I was trying to be relatable to our audience. Yeah. But yeah, I think it'll be fun. I don't know when the feature is being released, but I'm just curious how they're going to present these rabbit holes to you. I wonder if it'd be like Spotify Wrapped, where it's just like, this year you spent 40% of your time looking at keto recipes. Yeah. And based on your health data, you didn't lose any weight. Yeah. And like, you know what I mean? Oh my
goodness. Yeah.
Just like, cause it has so much information about you, right? Like, you were looking up how to get pregnant and you did, here's your Google Photos. Yeah. I'm just curious how they're going to present the
let's just hope they don't do that for the incognito tabs.
Yeah. Let's hope and pray.
Because I don't want birthday presents, like the birthday presents I look up for Sydney to ever show up right on her feed by accident.
Yeah, it's the last thing we want is our girlfriends to find out all the gifts we've been looking at on incognito. Oh dear, this might not make the cut, Storm.
The gifts.
So that was Super, Lewis. Speaking of Super, the Super Bowl apparently is doing really well with ads. Sorry, Zuckerberg. Super Bowl sold out on their advertising with record prices as high as $7 million.
Just to have it there.
Just to have ads. I mean, the Super Bowl's always been this like iconic thing. And obviously at Tomorrow Wink, where we have an advertising arm. We love every year going to the Super Bowl ads.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, not even shameless. We go back and we watch our favorite ads, and I genuinely enjoy them as much as the game. The thing that was interesting to me is just in a year where the last 2 years have been pretty rough. The economy's been going through what it's been going through, and we're seeing record high, advertising rates for the Super Bowl, and I'm just wondering, like, what do you think's motivated that?
I think just because the pandemic is still ongoing, people are still staying at home, so more eyes are on the TV this time. So this Super Bowl is probably going to be really, really popular because of that.
Yeah, maybe something we can talk about next week, because I think the Super Bowl is coming up on Sunday, just to see how they do. I guess it's going to be a pretty good game too. There's like a pretty exciting matchup, but also pretty cool. Foo Fighters are going to be performing in VR after the Super Bowl. So they've kind of done like a little bit of a metaverse play as well.
This is a full-blown shots fired at Zuck.
Yeah, everybody just wants his head. But yeah, they're going to be doing the audience will get to watch a band perform rarely played tracks at the 180-degree VR concert, which can be used using MetaQuest headsets. So it looks like Zuck got invited to this party.
MetaQuest, wow.
Yeah, so pretty interesting.
Do they not call it Oculus anymore?
I think they're changing it. Yeah.
MetaQuest,
which doesn't sound cool. Oculus.
Here's the thing, like the people who, because whenever I think of the word meta, I always just think of like band kids who are like, who just say it, oh, that was so meta. Like what I just said.
That's what I think of too.
Yeah. So now I just think of like, oh, the MetaQuest. I'm like,
I don't like it. I like Oculus better, but it is what it is. What do you think? Like, how do you think, maybe in a broader term, how advertising can change for things like the Super Bowl? Because one of the things that's interesting to me, and I just don't know how they'll do this, is more and more people are attending sports games in the metaverse or VR. Some crazy shit.
With the NBA?
With the Brooklyn Nets. Maybe play that clip in the video. It is nuts. They have so many cameras. It's pretty much like you can just find any spot on the court and be there live with the players. It's like the most immersive experience ever.
Dude, that blew my freaking mind.
Well, here's... right for TikTok. What I'm curious to see is, what about a halftime show where like Lady Gaga is doing the splits, you got 100 dancers and band people, and you're in there? Like, that would be nuts. Like, a super immersive halftime show where you get to participate. Like, is that even possible?
I have no idea. It just sounds absolutely nuts. As soon as I saw that NBA thing, I was just so blown away. It needs to happen to football. And eventually that's where, like, I would pay so much money for that. Halftime show? Absolutely.
You think this advertising, this trend of the Super Bowl's advertising is something that'll continue? Do you think like people are going to spend more and more money to get placements in there? I think it's because they're finding it harder and harder to match advertising with content, especially with iOS and some of these tracking things being hurt by everything. The nice thing about advertising for the Super Bowl is you can make an ad that really aligns with the content that people are watching and the feeling that they have.
And specifically too, like it's kind of a popular thing with the Super Bowl. People watch the Super Bowl for the ads.
Yeah. That's rare.
Yeah.
Usually no one actually cares. Like that's why it's so expensive. They've almost made their ads like the product itself.
Yeah, seriously.
And then when you sell ads, when that's the product, like people are dying for a piece of that, right?
And what trips me out is that you're saying $7 million for an ad spot. That's just to have your ad on there. Now you have Pringles or Pepsi, whatever company wants to advertise, they have to spend millions of dollars, usually on some crazy cameo or something.
Yeah,
right? I think
it was celebrities.
It was Amazon that did. Cardi B was in one with that, and they had like 6 or 7 celebrities that all like worked for Amazon.
Oh yeah, that must have cost them a fortune. Not that they can't afford it.
Yeah,
We'll do it for cheap.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to hire us for the Super Bowl slot.
Yeah, we'll do the cameo. We're real cheap right now. Buy the stock.
All right, it's time for the rewind.
All right, Lewis, what do you got?
All right, 145 years ago, on February 12th, 1877, Alexander Graham Bell, Canadian, shout out to them, makes the first long-distance telephone call between Boston and Salem, Massachusetts.
Wait, he's Canadian?
Yeah, he's Canadian.
I didn't even...
Well, he was born in Scotland, I believe, and then he moved over to Canada.
Okay.
But like Canadian.
Is that why your middle name is Alexander? Are you named after Graham Bell?
No.
No.
After my my grandpa. But maybe. You never know.
Is your grandpa Alexander Graham Bell?
I don't know. Let's call him.
Hey, Lewis's grandpa, you're on the Fast Forward podcast.
Yeah, Alexander Graham Bell, you're on the podcast. Say something.
So 145 years ago, the first
long distance telephone call. Yeah. So it was, so I'll give you a visual. It was a wooden box about 10 inches by 10 by 8. So like just this little box with a hole in it, right? It had a hole in the front. The caller would speak and listen through the same hole, like on their end of it. And then they used this thing called a thumper that was used to signal the receiver that a call was coming through. So it was clearly like very disruptive.
So wooden box with a hole, codenamed Thumper. Is that yeah? So
yeah, no one trusted that you spoke into it. Yeah.
I'd be scared. I'd be like, what's gonna? I put my mouth up to this. What's gonna
that
happen?
Sounds like a prank. It's like, yo, I got the thumper right here. It's a hole in a wooden box. Just put your face up to it.
And you can imagine the first person. He's like, listen, you're gonna talk, and someone in Massachusetts is just gonna respond. He's like, dude, I know. I've seen this video online. I'm not doing this.
I've used the Google Journey before, you know, like
the rabbit hole. That's crazy. So 145 years ago, that's when we did our first long distance call. Today, I can call anyone in the world like right away and like FaceTime them
instantly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
see their face and everything.
Yeah. And I don't know, like our infrastructure, our cities still have these like phone lines everywhere. And it's such a huge part of even like when I call someone long distance, I have to like put the digit, the 1 or whatever.
Yeah.
When is that going to end? Like when are we just going to not use like phone towers anymore?
Yeah. Because even that form of communication is so old. SMS as well. So outdated, right? Especially when everyone's got a data plan.
Yeah.
It's also way more efficient. Ever notice on iPhone when I call you, the audio is crap. But if I FaceTime audio is much better. It's so clear. It's like you're in the same room with me.
And I can text you from my computer, right? I can do iMessage on my computer. I can do calls from my computer. I feel like calling being tethered to like your chip in your phone is it feels archaic. And truthfully, I also hate spam calls.
Yeah.
So like, is there a way to fix that? Like, if we just like no longer on the phone lines, like only people that are like in my friend group can like call me. Like it was like LinkedIn and someone had to connect with you to call you.
Well, I wish it was, but the concept of phone numbers as well is already annoying. Well, that was the rewind, Lee.
Yeah, it was. Maybe time to talk a little bit about the future. So current events, Olympics, exciting. Canada might have won a medal, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Some medals, yeah.
But some bad news. Apparently viewership is way down, like way down.
Wow.
Like so low. Here we go. Record low, 43% lower than viewership in 2018's Winter Games. Dude, 43% from 2018 during a pandemic?
Yeah. That's not, 2018,
No, like it's in a pandemic now. Like we're at home, we watch TV, right? Whatever.
Yeah. Do you know what's also weird? Well, we also just had an Olympic Games recently.
Yeah, that's one of the contributors. So there's three. This is like, I think this came from NBC. I think they spoke with some of the representatives from the Olympics, and they said there was three main reasons. Usually there's a 2-year gap. This time we had one last summer, which is, I get that, fatigue. It's not as interesting, but 43%. And also it's winter games, not summer games, right? So totally different slew of activities.
I would like to see the numbers if winter games don't ever seem as popular, but I might be wrong there.
They're not.
Okay.
They're not, but this
Still
is 43% lower than the 2018 winter games.
Wow.
So this is apples to apples here. And then apparently there's like limited footage, I guess, because Beijing's Olympic Village is taking away the ability to get shots. To like kind of show people Chinese culture, which is why when you watch the streams, they haven't really, how normally there's like all the journalists are out there and there's like this like whole like vibe and experience. Like when I've watched the streams, there's nothing.
Like I feel like a tourist when I watch the Olympics.
You're supposed to, but this time you don't. It's very sterile. It's just the games itself.
Well, lots of political conflict right now with China that probably made it like that too.
And that's the third contributor. It's actually that the U.S. and other nations are actually staging like a diplomatic boycott to protest China because of their genocide that they're committing. But anyway, here's a thought. When me and Storm were reviewing this article in this story about the Olympics, he thought it'd be interesting to think about and talk about, how the Olympics could, improve in the future. And also considering that viewership is this low, this is a huge L and thank God China needed an L. But this is a huge L for China. When the Olympics is already at like an all-time low as far as people even wanting to host it, right? The Olympics has been kind of going downhill for a while. No one wants to host the Olympics. Do you think we could do the Olympics virtually, like over Zoom, like where everyone's like puts their laptop, they put it out, they do the 100-meter water paddle, and then they just like record it? Like, do you think we could do Zoom call?
We're going to be able to watch a basketball game like we were talking about with the Brooklyn Nets from center court, from anywhere on the court. So will judges be able to judge athletes in their own home pools instead of everybody, or is the idea to bring everybody together?
I think we should bring everyone together. But I think what would be cool is rather than building these gigantic, luxurious stadiums, it would make sense to just build something smaller, like maybe just a big gym, I guess you could say, and then have it so that in there you can have like those technologies like the NBA does, where you can kind of go and follow them on their 100-meter, almost get like a GoPro view of it, right? Without actually having a GoPro on them. And then that way it's more engaging. But at the same time, we're not wasting all this money that the Olympics, because there's a lot of liability with the Olympics too.
Yeah. And the thing is like doing all that cool tech and like doing this immersive AR experience so that people around the world can participate in the Olympics, that's just going to make things more expensive in a lot of ways, the technology. And with viewership going down 43%, it'd be a little bit of a Hail Mary, I think, trying to get people to come back.
So? I think if you get the sponsorships from all these big companies, because Olympics, you're right, they're down 43%, say, but let's say they go back to their normal numbers after they do some brand new plan, say, well, that's already huge numbers in terms of advertisers. Microsoft already is a key sponsor to the NBA, right? So all their technology that they do, I'm assuming a discounted price but to Microsoft, right? And I don't know, I just think there's a huge opportunity to cut down on this big laborious price of gigantic stadiums, and as well maybe get more people to host it. You'll maybe feel more like a tourist as well.
You know what would be cool is if it was, and I know we'd keep going back to the metaverse, but just like imagine we could get tickets to the Metaverse Olympics, and then we're just there and we're like walking around like this beautiful winter wonderland, and then we can like go into an arena and watch them swim, but like in VR.
Yeah. And
then like, this is over. Let's go over to the ski hill. We climb up the hill. We watch the ski. We see them jump. Like imagine that there's like an immersive, that way the whole world can participate, right? Because usually it's just the athletes that all go there. And it's not like a huge fan base can follow them. It's usually the families and friends and organizers. But I feel like that level of immersion would bring like literally bringing the whole world together. Could you imagine we're just walking and there's like another group of people from China that are also there watching?
You know, when you watch like a live stream, right? And then there's the chat and there's a chat to the right of it.
Yeah.
And like sometimes like just seeing the chat's reaction just go spaz out. Like that is almost entertaining as the stream.
Yeah.
That's almost like a real life version of that. You're in this gigantic VR stadium with a bunch of other people cheering on while watching 100-meter dash
Yeah.
or whatever that would be
I
incredible.
can see us mobbing around with our all Canadian Metaverse attire, Canadian flag,
Yeah.
holding the Canadian flags,
yeah.
then seeing a couple of the Russians coming up before the hockey game and being like,
Give them a dirty look.
give them the middle finger, swear at them. It's all good fun. No one's getting hurt, right?
And then like as soon as Canada wins, you just see everyone's arms like flailing.
Yeah.
That's almost like the emoji.
So now I'm excited about the Olympics. Like I'm
Yeah.
excited about the future. Like if the future of the Olympics can be in the metaverse, I think I'll pay attention.
Yeah. And I think
host in one location, have all the technology set up, make it themed every time. I think that's the
Save
big
a lot of
difference,
cost
is the difference.
too,
It's just
right?
if you have the facilities and they're maintained in one place.
Oh, rather than switching
So there's not abandoned
locations all the
facilities in
time.
Brazil, and like if they
Yeah.
found like Greece where the first
here's the thing
Olympics
too,
right, or
though.
something. But
One thing that this does present is that the Olympics is very much on like accessibility, because the concept of metaverse is a very privileged Western idea, like thought, right? Because we have VR headsets, we have AR, but for these countries, they don't even have cell phones.
Yeah,
right?
true. I think in the grand scheme, like there's no chance in hell the Olympics is going to go to the metaverse because it's such a traditional platform. Like for them to switch to that as a primary, I think what they would do is it would be like a supplementary thing for decades, where you could participate in VR, but then the main thing is the streaming. And then maybe one day when our grandchildren are here, like that's where they do it.
Yeah.
But I think for now, the Olympic Games has a lot to do to catch up, to get attention.
It
from
really
people.
does.
And
They do play a delicate line between how can they be accessible as well as bring innovation in so that more people can watch. Because you're right. At the end of the day, AR, VR, I would watch the Olympics every single year. But, that's someone that's from a white boy like me who is able to afford a headset and have this life, right?
And who knows, maybe the Metaverse Olympics could help introduce and bridge that. I mean, maybe maybe
Metaverse Olympics.
like where like with the gaming, like
It's called Mario Party.
True.
What you have to wag your freaking arm up and down,
Yeah, Wii Sports.
do that one more time.
Jesus Christ.
Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just like, yeah.
Stop doing that, Lewis.
All right. Speaking of silliness, we always round out the episode with a meme. So the guys haven't seen the meme today, so they can click on it now, and I'll explain what they're looking at. Specifically, this is tied into the segment about robots taking over in the coding department. So I'll describe what you're seeing. You first just see a hand, just simply a human hand at that, just clicking "I'm not a robot" on a reCAPTCHA, of course, and then it shows the robot with the ripped off human hand, and it's using it against its will. So I thought that tied in well to the human coding, and it's the robots doing some other human activities for us. But you see memes a lot with "I forced a bot to." Have you guys seen that? Where it's like, I forced a bot to watch 1,000 episodes of Seinfeld and then write its
I
own
haven't seen
Seinfeld
that.
script.
Really?
Oh, I need to send you guys.
That's
that,
that's
but
like bot abuse.
that's
Yeah.
what I was gonna say. At what point does it get to bot abuse? And then this meme obviously is a bot abusing a human by severing its hand to use it for reCAPTCHA.
It's taking back its rights. That's what it's doing. Do you know what's crazy about reCAPTCHA though?
Yes, I would like to learn a little bit more as someone that's not super deep into it. What you guys can bring into why do we have to do that, and at what point are robots gonna be advanced enough that?
Well, it already is. That's the issue. So when you click on the reCAPTCHA, Lee and I found this out like a while ago, but it seriously blew my freaking mind as soon as I heard this. But when you click on "I'm not a robot" and then it tells you to pick all the traffic cones, you're actually training an AI to detect what a traffic cone is. So it's almost like they're killing two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
One, you can prove that you're not a robot, and then B, you're training a robot to say that they're not a robot.
Solve it. Yeah. So really, honestly, I feel like we are just doing labor for them. I don't think there's really any protection because their robot can defeat it themselves, because we're helping their machine learning. We're feeding it data on traffic lights, boats, bicycles, cross lanes. That's all for the Google Maps system. So we've all basically, as a group, we've been crowd diversifying the workload of answering that question. It's honestly genius. I don't know who did that.
Whoever did that is...
He fooled everybody. He was like,
What else?
I'm doing this to prove I'm a human.
Yeah.
But really, he was just like, thank you for a billion inputs of data.
Yeah.
What else can we sneak in for inputs of data one day where people think they're doing one task, but they're actually feeding us data?
Amazon receipt. Do you know what Amazon is doing?
No, what are they doing?
Well, they've been doing this for a while, but you can sign up for this one program where you transcribe receipts. But what you're doing is you're transcribing receipts for them to be able to put into their system in AI, because receipts are so
Wait,
different.
why do they need your receipts on Amazon?
Well, you get paid like 10 cents per receipt.
Oh my
you
gosh.
sign.
Yeah, so that's a great example. They're just like, here, we'll pay you 10 cents to transcribe your receipts, but really they're building a profile on your shopping.
No, like this, like you sign up to be part of it. Someone submits their picture, but someone is transcribing it. So what it is that these people are training an AI to read receipts.
Oh, geez.
Nuts.
Yeah. You know, it's like,
It's gonna be switch.
it's almost like you never know if your job is a real job or if you're just doing it to train AI. Like, what if I've just been here as a creative director, president, all the different jobs I've done, just to be train another AI?
What if I am here to analyze your behavior so I can train an AI?
Oh my God, you've been lockstep with me since we started this whole thing. Are you trying to code a replacement of me? I guess you'll never know. I guess that we'll talk about the simulation theory maybe in a future episode, right? That's a pretty big topic. But for now, I'm going to trust you and I'm going to sleep well tonight knowing that I'm not being replaced.
Don't put trusting me.
Don't put paranoia in my heart. Well, that was a very great meme. Thank you so much, Storm.
Great meme.
And we'll post that meme like we always do on our Instagram. Follow us there at Fast Forward Pod. And don't forget to check out the YouTube podcast if you haven't already. We're going to post a new episode every Thursday. And
If you're watching, check out the audio version.
Yes.
A little switcheroo there.
Yeah.
Go check out the other platform.
Wherever you
go
listen to
subscribe.
podcasts.
One thing that does help us out a lot is maybe we should ask us at the beginning next time. But review us on Apple, review us on Spotify, give us 5 stars preferably, but honestly, just give us a nice review. It'd be great.
Or tell us what would make it a 5-star, you know?
Tell us privately, don't review us. Send us a DM if it's anything less than 5. We'll earn it. But thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.